Hare Krishna. That was a really interesting article that was posted in the BBC News website a few weeks ago. And it was during the time of the Davos meeting, the economic forum they have there, all the big shots of the world gathering together in Switzerland. But then they have these little side programs and side shows. And this article is about this side, little program they had, which was about how to discover happiness. So it's, this is like the top leaders of the world. This is like, so they're offering some really quality content to attract these big players. And this article here by Katie Hope, and she describes what it was like during the event. And I thought it was really interesting because it basically sums up a lot of the stuff that I try to teach, because it is just universal and also now scientific knowledge. So in this article, there's a list here about what really makes you happy. And here we go. And this is how it works here. Let's take a look. Tips for happiness. Number 1, make more time for social connection, even if it's with a stranger. So you get to hear that a lot about how socializing makes you happy. And of course, everybody knows that. And that's why WhatsApp and Facebook are so huge as businesses. That's why it's so successful. And then why people gossip so much and just chat so much. Because obviously, when you talk, it kind of just liberates all these nice chemicals and you feel good. Because as a soul, as a person, when you connect with another person, another soul, there's like it's real, like you've gone beyond illusion. It's not just like, it's not dead matter anymore. You're like in touch with something else which is also like you, like a true spiritual soul. So in terms of like yoga knowledge, that would just be like one soul connecting with another soul, so that enlivens you and makes you happier. So that people talk to, a lot of, if you see articles and studies about people interviewing, very old people at the end of their lives, and they say, okay, look, you've had all this huge life, you've been around for 80, 90 years. What's the one thing you can take from it? What's the one tip you'll give? And when studies do that, socializing comes right up at the top. They say, the best thing is like time with your family, friends, is relationships, basically. All the other stuff you forget about. It seems so important, getting your job and making money and buying that car, all that stuff you completely forget about. But, relationships come out. One thing people don't say too much, though, and you'll see that in some research, but not much about it, is that this thing about socializing being like the greatest thing and being really good and healthy, it's true. But there is a certain type of person, especially like higher IQ, it's related. People like, they actually like being alone. And it's actually sometimes a bit troublesome for them to relate with other people. So it's not always so pleasant, and it's not always something so desirable. So you will see that. You kind of have that image of the researcher, the professor, is like a little, likes to stay on his own, and you get a bit of that. So that's also true. So if you're like that, don't twist your nature around and force yourself to have relationships with people, to talk with people, when you just prefer, you're quite happy being alone. But anyway, so that's one tip. Second tip, do nice things for others. Even small things like making someone a coffee will improve your happiness. And this is so true, This is so true, because just being good makes you feel good. It's the oldest thing in the world. Jesus said, you get when you give. Like if you give, you get it back. You feel good. Giving just makes you feel good. So whenever you do something for others people, you just feel good. Again, this in yoga knowledge, this means dharma, this means helping out. Yoga says that just by doing your part, by serving, you'll feel pleasure. In other videos here and in blogs, I like citing, Mother Teresa, or Saint Mother Teresa for the Christians, who said that, the fruit of love is service. So when you serve, you're connecting with love, and love, of course, is the highest feeling you can attain as a soul. It's the thing that most makes you vibrate in joy and happiness, is love. So serving is a result of love. So when you serve, you feel love. When you love, you serve. So they're interconnected, the two things. So that's always a great thing. And in the whole thing that I try to teach at 3T Path, and the whole, it's serving, dharma. Do your service, do your best. Just focus on doing your part, and that makes you happy. Not in getting the results. Don't worry about results. Don't worry about being served, but focus on serving. So that's a profound truth of life, which will definitely work, and anybody can experience that. Like it said, like just making somebody a coffee, like whatever little thing you do, it immediately gives you results. So it's something you can try and test immediately. So that's very good. Third point here is count your blessings. So that's really interesting too. Count your blessings, gratitude, and you'll see in my book, The 3T Path, and it's like a general truth now, especially in the yoga field, the spirituality in general. I mean, it's the real thing. Gratitude is a real thing. It really is effective. It's like the number one tool, I say. It's the number one tool in your utility belt for making your life better. Gratitude. You'll see here in a video in my channel here, 60 seconds that'll change your life, where I'll talk about doing a gratitude journal. Very effective tool. Immediately, scientifically proven, it will change your life. Everybody I ask, like, do you do it? Everybody says, yeah, I've been doing a gratitude journal. They'll say like, oh yeah, my life has gotten so much better. It really works. Huge difference. Very effective. So gratitude, extremely powerful sentiment, extremely powerful tool, and the more you practice it, the more return you'll get. It's an excellent tool. Gratitude journal. And then number 4 here is quite practical. Get enough sleep. And also, in my book, The 3D Path, I mentioned sleep as part of like the life habits necessary, lifestyle habits necessary to be happier, have a better life. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that a yogi doesn't sleep too much or too little. So you have to get enough sleep. So definitely getting enough sleep. It's something that's coming up more and more. I mean, I'm sure you heard about it a lot, but it's going to keep coming up a lot more because we are, as a population, studies show, as a civilization, we are undersleeping. We are sacrificing our physical and mental well-being by sleeping less than we really need. And and then horrible accidents can occur, and people, there's now cancer. There's now research indicating and pointing out that a direct link between certain types of cancer and lack of sleep. So it's very serious, and people don't take it quite as seriously as they should. But here it says, get enough sleep is item number 4 on this list here. Item number 5, stay in the moment. When our mind wanders, we're less happy. And this is like a key point. I've mentioned this many times here. It's like a key point in my book, The 3D Path. It's the key item of yoga, keeping your mind in the here and now. So this is so important. I mean, this is really at the root of all our suffering, is not having your mind in the here and now. So this is, you can't emphasize enough this point. I mean, they really should have put this on number 1, because this is really by far the most important thing. And so research really shows that when your mind wanders, when you're not focused on your action, totally present in what you're doing, you do feel worse, especially when your mind goes to the past, I explained. You'll feel lamentation and sadness. When your mind drifts to the future, anxiety and fear. So it's just a combination of suffering. So when you bring your mind to the here and now, immediately you'll feel better. And you can try this. Again, this is one of those things you just immediately just try it. Just, any simple exercise, a simple breathing exercise. We just say, okay, just for 30 seconds, let me just focus my mind on my breathing. You just sit there and breathe in deeply and calmly, and then immediately you'll feel better. I mean, it's just like, it's immediate, the result. It doesn't require any time. So it's something you can check out and experience also immediately. So that's really good. Okay, number 6 here is meditate. People who meditate tend to be happier. And of course, I'm talking about yoga here, so meditation is, that's what we do. And of course, it's a key component as well. It's this absolutely crucial component in the path of yoga. And, more and more people are figuring out that this is what you this is not meditating. It's just like, it doesn't make sense. It really is like, I compare it to not flossing your teeth. It's just one of those things like, this is really obvious. This is something that if you introduce to your life will be better. And it's, it's like not smoking. It's just like one of those super obvious things that if you're not doing it, do it. This is really important. And in this channel you'll see japa. The technique I teach is called japa, which is chanting. It's mantra meditation. So you'll see here, if you want to learn how to do it, just type on my channel japa mantra meditation. You'll see how to do it. It's easy. Anybody can do it. And there's so much research saying how important it is for your well-being, for happiness. It's just like it's crazy not to do it. So meditation. Number 7, stop criticizing yourself. It makes you feel worse and you will achieve less. That's really good too. It's an interesting, what they figured out, is studies showed, is that when you're too hard on yourself, you fail. Because when you're hard on yourself, it's like when you're hard on yourself, it's the same thing as somebody else being hard on you. It's funny. It's not like your brain can't really distinguish between the two things. So what happens when somebody else is harsh, is being mean to you? When somebody else is attacking you, it's like an attack. You feel attacked. And whenever you feel attacked, the reaction of the brain is either to attack back, which in your case doesn't work because it's you attacking yourself, or to fall into a defensive zone. And your defensive mental zone is called a zone of comfort, your comfort zone. So your comfort zone is where you go after you're attacked. So when you attack yourself, when you criticize yourself for not, let's say, implementing this new habit you're trying to implement, for like you're trying to eat less and you don't eat less, you're trying not to eat sweet and you eat a sweet, you're trying to meditate, you don't meditate, like whatever new thing, the new you're trying to create, whenever you attack yourself for not doing that thing, the reaction is not to want to do that thing, is to go back to your default position, to your comfort zone, where you're not doing those new things, where it's the old you that isn't changing. So when you criticize yourself, you actually reinforce your old self, and you make it even more difficult to implement those new things you want to implement. So it's counterproductive. So when you criticize yourself, you actually make it harder to put into place that new thing you want to practice. So criticizing yourself is unproductive. You achieve less. And again, this has been proven by science. Last, don't keep chasing more money. After you reach $75,000, which is the equivalent of 57,000 pounds, studies show earning more won't make you any happier. They're talking about yearly salaries. And of course, in different countries, it's different. Like I'm in Brazil, $75,000 a year in Brazil is like a fortune, so it would be the equivalent in Brazil of a lot less than that. But so these things it's also been proven, because the whole thing is based on this concept, which I like to emphasize as well, is that your mind will tell you that all your happiness is dependent on the external situation of the world. That's what your mind will want to tell you, that everything, like my happiness is 100% dependent on what's going on out here. So, the more I have something good and pleasant going on out here, the happier I'll be. And then naturally, the result of that is to think that, okay, so the more fame and money I have, the happier I'll be. So we kind of all know that's not true. But somehow we keep telling ourselves, well, it's going to be true for me. And it's a lie, and it's actually not true. So it really isn't true. And so now they actually study this, and of course, it's true to a certain extent. If you're in poverty. I mean, if you can't pay your rent, your children are going hungry. This is like horrific, right? It's a horrific situation. So obviously, if you have more money, it's gonna be much happier. If you don't even have a place to live, you're in the streets. Of course, if you have more money, then you're gonna be like, it's a big relief. My God, I was living under a bridge. Yeah, of course. So it's true to a certain extent. To a certain extent, yes, making money will make you happier. Just because you have food, you have shelter, you can buy some things. Anyway, so it works, but it works up to a certain point, and then after a certain point, it doesn't work anymore. And then they've come up with this figure of $75,000 a year, and this, 57,000 pounds a year. So like up to that level, as you make more, you get a little happier. But after that, it stagnates, it stops. So if you're making $150,000 a year, you're not going to be twice as happy. If you're making $1 million, it stops. And I love this line I heard once, and it said, look, Bill Gates he's about 10 million times richer than you are. But is he 10 million times happier than you are? And you're like, oh yeah, okay, I guess not. Because, it wouldn't even be like conceivable, right? I'm not that miserable. So, obviously it stops after a while. And so sure, go after it, but what you have to focus is on the other things, on these other techniques. And of course, other techniques, I have my own list of recommendations. In my book, The 3T Path, I put everything there, what I know works, what yoga tells us works, it studies. So there's other things you can recommend. This is just, of course, a simple article. But, these are basic and true things. So it's an interesting article, and it's nice to see that it's happening, on that level of like in Davos, like near like the center of power, as it were. So like this subject of happiness is gaining more traction and in becoming more mainstream. So I think it's I was very happy to see that article and see that these truths are now reaching more and more people. So that's it. I hope you enjoy that, and see you soon. Hare Krishna.